see. There we are. Finally we connected. Okay. Just end up staring at the camera, seeing if we're gonna connect. I have one last bag before my market tomorrow. Like one actual whole last bag. I finished the other one earlier. I wasn't sure if I'd get to this one. It's like cut and ready to go, and I feel like, I don't have anything better to do. I might as well sew it up. So, I know I was on just a little while ago. I went and did my little visit. It was nice. Frankly, I had a glass of wine, which was also nice. Now I'm gonna have water to wash down my wine, and it's really annoying. How do I fix that? Maybe like that. Just unwind this a little bit. My bobbin thread got like hooked under the rest of my bobbin, which is really obnoxious. So as soon as I get this loaded, then I'll show you. I'm using a Tulip Pink fabric. Okay, I think I fixed it. Okay. Yeah. Normally, I always tell people that ask, especially when it's their first market, I'm like, no, don't stay up all night sewing and preparing and doing a bunch of stuff. But anybody who's ever exhibited at any kind of a market or stall or booth or whatever, you all know we're the same. We're like, just one last bag, one last one. And I already have this one cut. Like, it's cut and ready to be sewn. If it were like a backpack or something complicated, you would not find me doing this right now. But it's 9 o'clock here my time, and I figure I can get it done. So, here's what I'm working with. I'm using red, super pretty red webbing. Got my other little pieces. And red zipper. I'm going with this color lining, this aqua blue. And then that's my fabric. Wow, love it. So that's what I'm gonna go with, and I'm just gonna finish this little guy up because why not? But something on my threading, why was that weird? It was weird and then it wasn't. Okay, there we go. But I'm gonna pull this thread all the way through. Why? Because I have a big black smudge on the middle of this thread right here. It's really ugly, and I don't want that. I mean, it's gonna be in an inseam, I guess. I'm not top stitching right now, but I don't know. I don't want that on anything. It looks like grease or oil or dirt or something. Okay. First things first. Welt pocket on this bag, so I've already got it like prepped. I'm just using a piece of scrap that I happen to have in this color. Let me move that out of the way. Ugh. Okay. So if you're working with something, or on something I should say, let me know what you're working on. Seen a number of new patterns lately that I want to try, but I am in no position really to like do anything new. Being that I haven't really had time to, experiment at all. So a couple of new patterns here on the bus, I guess. I did my little collapsible trash can, which is currently full of trash, but like, look, it collapses all the way down. You put the thing around it. That was new. And also the car trash cans I'm taking to the fair tomorrow. Hi, Donna. So I've done some new stuff, but nothing terribly complicated. Actually, that's not true either. I forgot the Laney backpack pattern. I've made 2 now, and that was brand new to me. I cut it before I left, and then I liked it so much I cut out a second one and made it yesterday out of a different Tula pink fabric that I really, really like. So I've been excited to finally get my hands on some of this Tula pink, and I wasn't sure, you know, how much I was gonna love it. I know that sounds weird, but I really love, I mean, some fabrics, they just like, it's gonna sound weird, they bring you joy when you work with them, right? Like you look down at your project and no matter how rotten the project is going, you love the fabric you're working with. And I wasn't sure if I was gonna have that reaction to the Tula pink, but I did, I do, I really like it. The colors just make me happy. The energy of these fabrics is just like the epitome of happy, and I need more of that. So I tend to not gravitate toward these kinds of like super vibrant, crazy, you know, neon, but I am really loving it. So that being said, there's a local quilt shop here that she ordered the complete collection of the brand new Tula stuff, and it was supposed to be here like 2 weeks ago. I'm thinking about going back to her shop. It's not particularly close, but I really liked the shop and I really loved the owner. She was so sweet. If you're in the Valley area, the name of it is a Quilter's Oasis, I think is what it was. They do like midnight sewing sessions in the store, and they carry a really interesting selection of fabrics beyond your typical quilt store, and they did have a lot of bag stuff in the store. So I did chat with the owner while I was there. Her name is Kathy, and I really liked her, and she said, I'm a collection gal. So she said whenever she orders something, she orders like all the coordinates and all the stuff to go with it. And yeah, so I was like, okay, I'll have to come back, and I just haven't made it back out there. Is basically what I was getting at with that. I just finished the mini making backpack for the first time. I know that pattern, Donna. Who is the maker of that one? Because a couple people have been posting that, and the name, you know, it's a very unique name. So, yeah, but I cannot remember who. Mini making backpack. And I can kind of place the posts I've seen recently too. It's a cute looking bag. So tell us, what did you think of the pattern? Oh, Noodlehead. Okay, that's not who I was gonna guess. But I know Noodlehead patterns. So did you like it? Did you think it was a quick sew? Did you like, you know, are you hankering to do another one, or is it like, okay, I'll revisit that later? I always know when I love a pattern when I immediately want to cut another one, which doesn't happen all the time. You loved it. Did you cut a second one already? Or maybe that wasn't, I don't know, what did you say? That was your first one? Yeah, for the first time. So for myself, I know I loved it when I immediately finish it, or when I'm in the process of finishing and I'm already thinking of the next one. Like, oh, that fabric would be super cute on here, which is what happened with the Laney backpack, by the way. Yeah, I really, really like that bag. It's pretty simple, and it's pretty easy to whip those out for fairs and stuff. And I like the process of how that bag comes together, and it's a nice size. It's not a tiny mini backpack, but I like that it's slim. It doesn't stick out. You know, like that's my problem with the Loungefly bags. They're both too small and too like thick, right? They sit this far off your back, but in reality, when you turn the actual bag, they're so small, they like don't fit anything. And for my broad shoulders, anytime I've ever tried one of those on, they give me like, they're too small. And so it just makes me hunch, and it makes my back hurt. So yeah. Yeah, so you definitely loved it. She said, I have another one cut out already. For anybody unfamiliar with this process, I am doing the welt pocket. So I just, I have this little thing drawn on the wrong side here, and then I sewed around the edge. Now I have cut all of the pieces in the little triangles, so I'm gonna step away. I guess I can turn you guys, but you'll just be looking at my back. I have to go over here in the tiny bus kitchen, and I have so I'm going to the Wizardry Retreat in May, and I bought everything to make Lynn's handmade. She has the Eli laptop pattern, and after the show is done tomorrow, I'll get to like personal sewing projects. But she put out a like little hack tutorial additional thing if you buy the laptop pattern, which I have, to turn it into a portable ironing and a cutting station. So it's like a big portfolio thing, and it opens, and it holds a pressing mat, a wool pressing mat, and a rotary mat. That's the word I was looking for. So I bought the rotary mat on Amazon. I bought the wool pressing mat. I've never had one of those before. I'll be completely honest with you. I've always refused to buy one. Why? Because I always insinuated or whatever that it was like, look, if I buy a wool pressing mat, I'm going to get less exercise. It's just that simple. If I have to get up to go to the ironing board to iron my pieces, at least I'm getting some steps in. I love that people are like, I'm going to keep my mat right here and I just press at my seat. And you guys, I'm already so lazy sometimes. Or I feel like I'm lazy and I need to get more exercise or energy. So, yeah, I refuse to buy a wool pressing mat, but I finally did, and it's come in really handy because I don't have an ironing board here on the bus. So I've been using it, and it is really nice. I can understand how quilters especially really like it, because it does absorb that heat, but I can use it right on my countertop. The heat doesn't transfer to the other side, and I'm not using steam. I don't put water in my irons at all. I run them dry always. That way they don't rust, they don't leak, and I never need the water. If I do, I keep a spray bottle on the side with water. My tip to you about any iron ever, I don't ever put water in them. So I'll show you, this really quick. I'm rolling away. The bus is currently not very level because the jacks are not down because we're working on it, and so I'm kind of rolling away. So this is what I'm going to be ironing on across the room. But like, look at, I got this cute little pad and then this cute little pressing mat, and you enlarge the laptop case to hold both of these, so then when you open it, you literally get like both of them like next to each other. And there's a handle on it and all that, and like how cute. I'm gonna put a trolley sleeve on mine so I can slip it over the carrying case and trolley for my machine. So that's a personal project I'll be doing, probably next week, and maybe we can do that together, because I printed out the pattern piece. She gives you full instructions on how to make it fit this stuff and how she did it. You basically follow the pattern, but you do have to enlarge a little bit to fit this. So yeah, that was awesome that she did that. And as soon as I saw her do it, I was like, I need an excuse to make that. And then I remembered I'm going to Wizardry, Zorel Fabrics someday. I don't know, she's got a Facebook page for it, but I have yet to see any more details because she's been busy. She's doing, supposedly she's going to do a haunted bag retreat. So like if you like spooky stuff, she's going to do a retreat at a, spooky location, some kind of, old haunted hotel, stuff like that. So I don't know about a date or a location or anything yet, but you can follow that group to get that information. So I'm eagerly awaiting that one. I really want to do that as well. I think that'll be really fun. And so I'm like looking for an excuse. And now that we have the bus, I was like, I travel with my machine now, this one, and I could totally use a portable ironing station and a rotary cutter. So I thought, yeah, I'm going to do it. So I ordered at Amazon, and yeah, that's what I did. So I'll be just over here off camera, I suppose. I always feel bad doing this. I guess I can move you guys just like the tiniest bit so you can see me from behind. Which, I mean, not so you can see me from behind, but so you can see something. Because I always feel terrible. Like, if people hop on and I'm off camera, they're not going to know what's happening. And by the way, I hope you guys can hear me. I'm not mic'd because I'm charging my phone, which means I can't use the mic. Look at what else I got. Focus the light here. I hope you guys can see this. It doesn't shine very well on the camera, but I got a sparkly rotary cutter. It's a Fiskars, and it's the style that I like already that I have. My hand, I just like this one the best. It doesn't have like all the crazy other stuff. It's got a guard on it, and they have it in pink and purple, and I think one other glittery color. It doesn't shine very well on here, but like it is glittery. Like it's sparkly in person, and I love it. So this is gonna be my travel rotary cutter for this whole little situation. And I borrowed my mother-in-law's iron. But I got this. Let me show you. I'm not using it because it's small. But let me tell you, I got this on Amazon like a year or two ago now, and I use this in my sewing room all the time. It's a tiny iron, but it's like a real iron. It's not like it actually gets hot. I have applied H20 with this to tons of things. I have done bunches of ironing, interfacing, all kinds of stuff. It actually gets hot enough, and it's a Sunbeam brand, which is like a real brand. I think it's just like $15 on Amazon, And I love it. I wish it had a retractable cord. That's the one thing, but look how small. I have kind of big hands. But I love it. So this is going to be my little travel iron. And I'm only using hers because Corey had to send this to me. Because when I make the travel case for the sewing machine, I want to make a pocket for this. So I'm planning on making a whole little suite of things. Oh, this is so tangled. Okay, whatever. Put it down. But anyway, I recommend this iron. I really like it. Let me hop back over here. I'm waiting for that iron to heat up. I hear you just fine, but your voice is a sentence behind in sound. It may not just be me, Donna. I have really terrible connection over here because I'm out in the RV and I'm kind of going off of like cell signal paired with, you know, there's kind of a whole sequence going on here. So sorry if my audio is off. Okay. So now I can turn and press this pocket. That's why I heated this up. That's what I'm doing. And then after that, no more ironing. Okay. This is always kind of like an obnoxious process. Make sure my hands aren't dirty because I'm working with white lining. Anything that I'm touching, it's gonna rub off. I'm also turning waterproof canvas in this welt pocket, which it can be done. You just gotta be patient. And also not burn your fingers on the hot cotton. It's like working with the glue gun. Burning your fingers all the time. I always do that. I probably should get like a pair of gloves for ironing or something. I don't know if that exists, but I hate wearing gloves. Even when I garden, I don't want to wear gloves. Let me shut this door over here too. That might help with sound. Back air conditioner on and it can be kind of loud and, you know, you're in a small space. You can hear everything. Okay, I'm almost done. I always take my time as much as possible on this part because it really does make a difference. I think I saw a comment from one of y'all just now that said I also don't put water in my iron. I learned that like years ago now. I was having trouble. I would buy like a brand new iron, a really expensive one, and they all develop leaking after a while. Even if you empty them out, it's like they all get leaky and kind of rusty, and they start doing that weird thing where they dribble water, like, you know, and then sometimes the water's like rusty on like a really new iron. And it's so frustrating. So I think in a random sewing group, I saw somebody say, just stop putting water in your iron. It still heats. It doesn't need the water. And I thought, that's a really good point. And I literally just keep a spray bottle of water if I need that, which is rare. And almost everything, I'll be the first to admit, I don't read the directions on any of my interfacing. If it doesn't interface with my terrible, like, I realize it might be my fault it's not fusing, right? Because I'm not following the directions. But if it can't handle me, then like I don't want it. That's kind of how I feel about it. And I have plenty of interfacings out there that can handle my nonsense, so I just use those. You know what I mean? And then I don't have to care. That's kind of how I live my life on the edge. Yeah, okay. So the last thing you said was that makes sense. It looks like Stephanie, she's the one that said she also doesn't put it in her iron. So I'm glad that I'm not only like in that club by myself, but it took me years to like learn that from somebody else. So spread the gospel, don't put water in your iron. So I press this out. all party. And now, and by the way, not that anybody's probably really like sewing along with me, but if you're looking for a like legitimate tutorial on how to do this, I have like a professionally filmed, edited, nice one with all the steps and all the pretty close-ups and the, you know, the nice edits. This is just me screwing around. That's what this is. So I use double stick tape, not very often, but this is one of those things I use it for, so I can avoid doing multiple passes around the edge of my welt pocket opening. Back in the day when I first learned how to do these, at this step before applying your zipper, patterns and stuff would always tell you to go around the rectangle, then apply your zipper to the back, and then go around the rectangle again to secure the zipper. But I don't like having those multiple you know, areas of stitching in such a small area because it is really noticeable. And so I have figured out, you know, if you press the pocket open really well and press it back and then use the double stick tape like this on the zipper and then just lay the whole thing on top of this with the tape exposed, then you're pretty much good to go. You just got to make sure it's not like curling and doing weird stuff. But by the time you secure half the zipper, you're good to go. So this is how I always do mine now. I'm gonna push that out of the way so I can line this up. Line it up. Ooh, it's dirty under this machine. Got schmutz. Okay, so basically what I'm looking at is that, and I'm just gonna line this up really carefully on one side and just making sure that like the zipper's basically centered and taut the whole way. And the other thing that is a little funky, I brought my number 5 zipper template with me. That's what I'm using. But these are number 3 zippers, which like you can do, but you barely catch the teeth. You gotta be so careful. I really prefer the number 3 for the number 3 and the number 5 for the number 5 because the sizings are perfect for, you know, they're designed for the correct width and sizing and all that. Okay. This is another part where I take my time. Like reseat it as many times as you need to so you don't end up with a crooked zipper. And I think once we're all good, it, you know, it wants to curl just a little bit, but see, that's what we end up with. And then once I press down over here, let me pull this lining a little more. Okay, there we go. And then once I start to stitch it down, it'll be happy. And I'm using my zipper foot. I think I've mentioned this like a million times to everyone who's ever watched one of my videos. But I pretty much assemble my whole bag. This is my zipper foot that's on here. And like I'll do the whole bag with the zipper foot on it. I do that a lot. It's narrow, it's easy to line up. I can go from regular assembly to top stitching, doing a zipper to top stitching, like, yeah, it's easy peasy. So if you like your zipper foot and you don't have one, I know some machines have weird zipper foots with like extra stuff. This is what they usually call a narrow zipper foot. And I can use it for everything. So I do. Okay. This pocket is the most complicated part of this whole bag and the longest, oops, lost my tab, the longest part of it. And once you do this portion, you can like zip through these. I batch sew them and they sell like crazy at fairs. And it's such a you know, less time consuming and then cheaper option for materials too. Okay. Cut this back one too before I back stitch over it. That was weird. My needle was supposed to stay down when I pivoted, but it didn't. How strange. Well, I'll just reseat this, and hopefully that'll be fine. Okay. So there you have it. Super easy. I do have a tiny bit of a pucker in that, but the other thing that I found about these is, like now that it's laying flat in front of me, the pucker's not there. A lot of times it's just when it's like being held up. So next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna seal up the pocket now. And then once we do that, we're ready to do like the bag body. So I trim the little tabbies off, and I leave like how this is outside just a little bit, and that's up to the edge. That's where I trim it to. That way I catch the zipper even more in my pocket. I am using, so this deer fabric is a cotton canvas or cotton woven. It's just regular like cotton, and it is interfaced with you can kind of see my 2 layers there. This is how I always do them, and it's my preferred way. There's a layer of, where am I? It's always weird doing stuff backward in the camera. Okay, so there's a layer of a fusible, like a cotton fusible, whatever. And then this is a thermolam or fusible fleece. So that's what's on the back of this, and then this is just waterproof canvas, and there's nothing on that. And then for the main liner, I'm going to use waterproof canvas as well. Okay, so the pocket. So we fold this in half like so, meeting the one edge here, like that, right sides together, and then we just stitch around the 3 edges, making sure they stay lined up. So what I usually try to do when I batch sew these is like I'll make a bunch, even if they're not of the same fabrics, but they all have the same color themes. Like they all have this same color whatever, so that I don't have to keep changing my thread. I won't have to do this till the end. So everything else on this bag is going to get top stitched and stitched in this light blue, because I think that'll disappear a little better. It's always a little weird to start this. Getting it lined up, but once you do the one edge, then you'll be okay everywhere else. And then we seal up. So we sealed that side, so now we just seal the 2 sides. And then our pocket is like fully done. And we move on to the bag body and the lining. And I'm telling you, so quick. And the first time that I made these, I was like, oh, I don't know if anybody's gonna want those. They sold better because it's a way lower price point, and people didn't, you know, they understood the idea of it. right? They were like, oh, it carries my water bottle. Oh, and I don't have to, you know, I don't care about any of the rest of it. I can just throw my little wallet or my cash. The big thing that I've seen a lot of people want them for is garage sailing. They throw their spare change here, or they keep it in their pockets because, you know, everything at a garage sale for the most part is like cheap, a couple of quarters or whatever. So they put their little coin pouch in here with all their stuff and then carry their drink. And so they love the lower price point of this style, and I also love it. My thread is caught. There we go. Because, you know, I can sell more of them at a cheaper price, and they won't take me nearly as long, because I really do love the original pattern, but the customers who are willing to pay for it, the materials, the time to prep, all that, and then, you know, the sewing of all those curves, and it's a lot. And people who don't sew, you know, they tend to judge our prices by size. Like, a bigger bag is often easier to work on and has less pieces than some of these little things. Big reason why I don't do a lot of wallets for fairs, because people don't understand that wallets are tedious and little. And they don't want to pay for them. And I've run into that on seriously so many occasions that it's like, okay, big tote bags, bigger, easy-going backpacks, they're often easier to sell. So if you're thinking about getting into the fair thing, or you're just trying to figure out better ways about your sales, that's a thing to think about. Okay, so pocket, all done. So now we go into the main bag body. Oops. Forgot a thread. So right sides together on this long seam here. Make sure you got these corners all lined up. Come on, buddy. Okay. You see, I'm gonna center this. Okay. I'm gonna try. This has never bothered me on any of the other ones, but I was thinking about it the other night. Well, no, I'm not gonna do that. Never mind. Never mind, I was just thinking about it, but I'm not gonna do it. Okay, so we clip across the bottom, take any ruler, and you gotta get your box bottom corners out of here. And I hope I have a pen. I mark mine out with a pen and then cut them with a pair of scissors. You could do it with the rotary too, but that's kind of a big old pain. And there we go. Okay. Normally I would like walk over to the rotary cutter and I like lay this whole thing down, do a bunch of stuff, but this is such a lazy sew, and I want to go to bed early tonight because I do have that show. I'm gonna get up at 5 tomorrow morning because it's like, you know, it's a bit of ways of a drive, and then, you know, I gotta set up, and I'm solo, which always means it takes more time to set up and all that good stuff. So I want to make sure I have plenty of time to get a breakfast run in and coffee. I'm bringing an iced coffee the size of my face to this thing. Okay, and then this other one, let me see. have no idea who was on the live earlier. If you were, I was live and we were talking about some other stuff and I was finishing up quickly sewing a bag. We were discussing grief and I mentioned that today had been a weird day, and it is still a weird day. You know, have weird days, but I do feel better, frankly. You know, I'm at least one of those people. It feels better to talk stuff out, and it helps me to like hear it out loud, even if it's just to myself. I talk to myself. Not a lot, but a lot, I suppose. I don't know what a lot is, but anyway, yeah, it was just, again, it's so nice to know you're not alone, you're not the only one. And so while I still feel weird and today was still a weird day, I feel better. And, you know, tomorrow's a new day and I'm just going to try to wake up and not, come on, this thread is like, I don't know if you guys can see that, it's not cooperating. Yeah, I'm just not going to think about it as much as possible. Obviously, I try to do that every day. Oh, really? But, yeah, tomorrow's a new day, new things. And it does really help to hear other people, you know, so sweet to hear somebody else say, you know, oh, and this was on the last live, I don't know if she's on here, but she said the day that she met me at a show, she had something tragic happen, and that meeting me, you know, inadvertently, like, helped her, you know, chatting with me and meeting me and whatever, not meeting me, but, like, chatting with me when she met me, I should put it that way, helped her get over her loss, and, that puts so much more perspective, like, on that day, too. We were joking around about, we kept running into each other all day long, every corner, like, each of us turned, the other one was there, and it was like, ah, so she jokingly called herself my stalker, and in my head, not that I think she's a stalker in any way, but I still think about that joke, like, all the time. It even happened that we parked next to each other in the parking lot, which cracked me up. That just, like, I came out to the parking lot after, like, 10 other times running into her that day, where she finally was like, I'm not stalking you, I swear, you know, we're just joking around about it. But we happened to park next to each other, and we just met that day, so, like, there was no whatever, and it was just so funny, because then I had to tell my husband the story. He was there. I'm like, oh my gosh, so this lady, we ran into each other all day, and so now her telling me that, it was like, oh, that's so sweet. I mean, it's sad, but it's also sweet, and it's also interesting, and it, now that I have gone through a similar loss, I don't know, that just kind of, I don't know, puts it into a, not really perspective, but just a different spin on all of it. So it really is, it's very interesting. I always think to get to know people and what they're going through, and it helps us get out of our own heads, out of our own way, to just think about it the way someone else views your own situation, their own situation, everything, right? I'm always so interested in that. And a thing too that I know happens all the time, when I meet somebody and I get excited, I talk a ton, which is exactly what happened that day when I met her. I really connected with her, and I really enjoyed speaking with her. But you know, I get so excited about stuff, and then I'm like oversharing, talking too long about a specific thing or whatever. I don't know, that's just totally me. I'm a weirdo, and it's fine. I accept who I am with pride. Maybe not pride, but with, I don't know, it's just acceptance. I am what I am. But anyway, yeah, that was really interesting that she said that, and yeah, it's tickling my brain in kind of a funny, sad, interesting way. This is a weird, one of my weird things. Have you ever thought about, you know, we never know, you always hear that saying, you never know what someone else is going through, right? Have you ever thought what it would be like if, kind of like The Sims, you were walking around in public and people had like a little thing above their head to like tell you if they were grieving or sad or having a happy day or anxious because something, they're waiting, you know, on some big news, medical things, whatever. Like, how different the world would be, in a good way and a bad way, because you know some people would exploit that. But for the rest of us, we might know if we saw like you know, oh, that's why that person cut us off in traffic, or that's why this person, my coworker, was mean to me today, or like that, you know. I always try to think of things like that, like, well, maybe they're just having a really bad day. I still get mad, like, don't get me wrong, but that's how I kind of prevent myself from, like, judging other people worse than I probably already do. I try to think, like, well, maybe they're going through something. Maybe they are, you know, years ago, an industry friend in my industry was talking to me about customers getting freebies from her and how she was so annoyed that, you know, she did these freebies and some of these people just never buy anything from me, is what she said. And my first thought, and this would be my first thought anyway about my own thing, I kind of said to her, you know, I'm not trying to discount her feelings. It's like, look, I get it. It can totally be easy to be annoyed. And I thought, but, you know, in this industry, like, well, there's all kinds of people, and there are sometimes older folks who are living on fixed income. Maybe they really like your work, but they can't afford to, you know, get something else from you. Like, maybe the freebies are just, you know, maybe that's all they can do. At which point, you know, her exact response, I was just trying to give her like a you know, a thought. That was my thought. That's where my head went. But she was like, oh, well, thanks. Now I feel bad. And I thought, well, I wasn't trying to make you feel bad. I was just trying to make you, like, I don't know, maybe something else is going on that we don't think of. I'm just as guilty of it as anybody else, like getting, you know, whatever about something or getting gruffly about something and thinking like, oh, I wish this wasn't like that or whatever. Like, I'm just as bad as the next person, if not worse in many ways. So it's definitely not a like, oh, I'm more righteous than you. You should think about, you know, someone with less than. I just, you know, try to put myself in a perspective of like, maybe there's something else going on. And I'm often really curious about like what other people are going through in their perspective. On that same note, I recently read something where they were kind of talking about this subject, and it was, I don't know about you guys, this is a bad place to live, but I love internet comment sections because I'm always so curious about other people's perspectives, right? So I go to the comment section on all kinds of stuff, anything, like just whatever, videos, reels, just posts, whatever it is, and I read the comments because I'm so interested to know like what people have to say about this stuff. So it was someone who was talking like me in the main post or the video or whatever, and there was a comment in there, and a woman said, one day I was driving, just out driving, and I was on my way to a gas station, and before I got there, this guy like hostilely cut me off and like honked at me and whatever, and got next, like after cutting me off, got next to me and was like screaming at me. He was irate. And in her mind, she said, I was just thinking, oh, well, it's road rage. I want to stay far away from that guy. And she said, I don't understand like what I possibly could have done to piss this guy off. So she said, you know, whatever, I went about my day and just didn't think about him anymore. And she said, I went to a gas station and I parked at the gas station. I went inside to pay. And when I came back out, you know, 5 or 10 minutes later, there was a note on my windshield. And it was from that driver. And he said, I'm sorry that I cut you off and I screamed at you and I was acting very irrationally. My emotions are all over the place right now because my mom just died. And I shouldn't have been that way with you, but I wanted to let you know it wasn't you. And I'm sorry. And he left that note on her windshield, and she posted this little thing, and she said, so I always try to keep that in mind whenever somebody does something that I know is irrational or like they're acting crazy, because you just don't know what they're going through. And had that person not left that note on my car, I would have just thought, oh, they're just being a jerk. Like, what a dick. And I thought that was such an interesting, like, those are the things that I find in the comment sections. I love reading about, you know, people see something and say, well, this is what happened to my kid, or this is what happened to me. So, like, I will go into comment sections and read probably too much. I'm lucky that, like, 9 times out of 10, it's actually kind of rewarding. I mean, there's always trolls and stuff in there. I don't read my own comment sections, hell no. I do a little bit, but, like, they're pre-read because the internet is mean. And then if there are terrible, mean, trolly things, my husband removes them before anybody has to deal with them. And his philosophy on that is you don't need it, but it's also not productive for other people reading the comment section. So that's our philosophy on it. We're not trying to police anybody, but it's like if it's a negative thing and it's mean, it has no place. And if it's not, conducive, or productive in any way, we remove it if it's just mean to be mean. But I don't take that stuff personally, because it's not personal most of the time. These people don't even know me, so how could it be personal? They're just going through something. And it's not really an excuse, but it's, we all have bad days. And I always just think to myself, well, that makes me sad for them, but, hopefully things get better. And then I just kind of move on with my life. But I would highly recommend, and I heard this from other, I don't really consider myself a content creator, so I shouldn't say other content creators, but if you end up being in public, right, in any way with stuff that you make, your art, whatever, I have heard so many times from other content creators that they have someone else, what they call police and or edit their comments. And I've heard that more times than with people saying that. They're like, just get your husband, friend, somebody in your life to pre-read your comment section so you don't accidentally stumble upon something that's going to make you feel really horrible. That's what my husband does. He's my comment reader. I'm talking about on tutorials and other posts and stuff. So anyway, if you're thinking about getting into this kind of stuff, get yourself some comment police. But anyway, yeah, I live in comment sections. I find them terribly interesting because it's strangers talking about their lived experience, and I just I really enjoy learning about what people have to say about, I don't know, various stuff I run across on the internet. But yeah, today's been a weird day. Tomorrow will be better and different. And if it's not, I guess it is what it is. You're right, Donna. When you have a connection with somebody, and I do find not always, it depends on the day. I'm not sure if I'm an introvert or an extrovert. I don't know which one I would say because it really depends on the day. I really value my alone time and I like being alone. But I also really like connecting with people and hanging out and talking. I love meeting new people. I just like getting to know people. And again, their perspective on life and what they're living and doing always interests me for the most part. And I like adventures and shenanigans. And there's no better way to have adventures and shenanigans than going out and getting yourself into some. So I'm just boxing the lining on this, by the way. These corners did not line up very well. I did not cut them very straight at all. But this is such a quick and forgiving sew, I swear. I don't know if you're still on there, Donna, that you said what weight thread. This is the Wizardry thread is what I'm using tonight. It's a Tex 45. It's a 20 weight. And their Caribbean Mint is the color. And I do really like it. I'm using it in the bobbin and on the top. And I use the Saya thread too. Same thing, the 45 on this semi-industrial straight stitch. And then because somebody usually asks or is curious, I am sewing on an Elnita by Elna. The model is the EF1. That's what I'm sewing on. Okay, so I did kind of a terrible job boxing my lining. It's not super straight, but again, this is super forgiving. I think I missed a couple of comments. I swear. Oh, Donna, you said you spent most of your day in the car. Are you on a road trip, or are you like driving for work? Or running a ton of errands? I don't like those days. I like driving in short spurts or like long. I love road trips, and we only road trip for the most part. I mean, we bought a motorhome, right? So like we road trip. I don't mind that. I loathe entirely those days where you end up with like burn the body. It doesn't matter typically, let me preface that. If it's like a tote or something where you're just top stitching around the top once you shove the liner in, some bags will have you turn this one right side out and keep this one inside out. Don't do that. Do this side first, or leave this side alone, instead of turning this right side out first, and turn your lining. You could turn your lining as much as you want, especially if it's waterproof canvas, it's not going to show. If you have problems with like your if you have problems with your interfacing like wrinkling too much, try it this way. I try to avoid turning the outside of my bag as much as possible, so doing it this way, I'm only going to turn it one time when I finally berth it and top stitch it. And that helps a ton. If you have to keep turning and returning, like, you're going to get wrinkles. There's just no way around it. But that's also PS why I don't use like Decoville Light. I hate Decoville Light. And some of the other ones. Almost all of my bags I make are all interfaced with the same method, the fusible woven kind of style, and then a fusible fleece, because I like the loft that it gives, and you can see it stands up like on its own, but it's not so firm that like you can't move it or turn it. So this is my go-to on like canvas, cotton, pretty much anything that needs interfacing, not vinyl or anything like that. So anyway, okay. So right sides together, shove this in. She said 2-week vacay. I have a Juki TL18, and I usually use the Stitchery Tex 35. Yeah, so, I mean, every machine is a little bit different. When I was going on the hunt for this, for a semi-industrial, for a straight stitch machine, I tested 3. I did not test, I tested a Juki. Spoiler alert, that video is not out yet. It's currently being edited, it's in post. But I shot it, and the Juki did not really like any of the thicker style threads. It didn't like a few things that I was doing, and so it just wasn't for me. It was not the TL118 though, it was the 10 something 10. I can't remember the name now because it was like a month and a half ago. I didn't keep it for very long. I tested, I shot the video, and I decided, yeah, this one's not for me. So I don't know if it was that particular machine or the thread, but I wanted to make sure one of my criteria for what I wanted to keep was that I wanted it to be able to take this 45 in the bobbin and up top. And I know some of the users said the same thing, that like their machine didn't like it in the bottom and the top, but this one is happy like that, so I don't have to wind separate bobbins, because like I ain't got time for that. I ain't got time for that. So did you drive home from vacation today or on the way to vacation? Because now I wanna know. I'm nosy like that. I will easily suffer time in the car if it's on the way to vacation. Especially if it's like a real vacation, not like, oh, it's kind of a vacation, we're going home to see family, but we gotta go to a funeral. Because that's not really a vacation. That's like you've tacked other stuff onto vacation as an excuse to take a vacation. Which those are like, they're not the worst vacations, it's better than no vacation, but I love a real vacation where you're actually not working while you're there. You know what I mean? You're not like doing a bunch of other stuff. It's actually enjoyable. I'm not really basting it because I don't do an actual baste stitch, but I'm essentially basting the tabbies in between the layers right now. Spending 2 weeks in a mountain cabin. Nice. That sounds fun, especially since basically everywhere now it's getting hot out. And I have to assume, possibly incorrectly, that it's probably pretty nice weather in the mountains. I guess it depends on which mountains, but like it's even snowing a little bit in some places I've seen. like, that's gotta be nice. I'm not ready for summer yet, and I'm still here in Arizona, and it's really hot here, and I am already over it, and like, it hasn't even gotten for real hot here yet. And for those who don't know, I lived here for 16 years, so I know what real hot is. I am not gonna be here for those, 112, 116 degree days. You cannot pay me enough money in the world. But right now, this like 98 degree stuff, today was nice, but every other day it's been well in the 90s, and like, it is too hot. And the bigger thing is just so sunny, so blindingly sunny. And I forget what that's like. My husband sent me a picture of the dog laying outside in the backyard, and I could just tell by the picture it was cool and breezy, and it was cloudy. Like, I could just tell by the ground around the dog and everything, and I was like, oh, I miss clouds. And then I went outside to go to my car, and it just like blinded me. I forget what that's like. I mean, not really, because I'm here for it right now, but like, I just forget that I lived like this for a very large portion of my life. Okay. So Donna, I am, oh, it's 39. See, I would love that. A nice sized cabin, not so hard to do. Yeah, that sounds very nice. Yeah, like, my perfect temp is like somewhere in the 50s, and I love like cold, misty, rainy days. I love them. I think and that in the mountains, like, oh, the only thing better than that, I love rocky beaches, like North California beaches, really Northern California, like the Rocky Cliffs and coast. So when you are there, when it's cold and misty and like that fog, but you can still see the waves and stuff coming in, oh, that is my favorite. And it's like, you put on a hoodie and go stroll in like the cold water on the sand. Oh, that is like my place. Forget about the sunny beaches that are like overpopulated and loud and full of people. I'm like, no, thank you. I'll take the rocky beach that looks like it wants to kill me. The rocky beach of solitude. So I'm currently in Arizona. I'm in the Phoenix area in Tempe, for anybody who knows where that is. And I'm just visiting my in-laws. I'm staying with them, but I live in Texas. I live in the DFW area, just like 35 minutes south of Dallas. So that is home for me, south of Dallas. I'm not terribly familiar with Sacramento. I've driven through there. I just drove through there on my way back on the way to, I don't know, I was somewhere near Sacramento, at least I was seeing signs for it, I should say that. But I just drove through when I was on my way to Disneyland. I stopped over there to meet a friend, which was nice. Little Disney time. And then I came back here to get more dental procedures done, which is why I'm here in the first place. There's always like a little bit of a bear keeping this lining all lined up. I could pin it and clip it, but I'm being lazy, so I just fight with it the whole time. So I'm curious, did you bring your sewing machine with you, Donna, on vacation? I've never been in a position to go on a vacation and bring my sewing machine. For one, I didn't have a machine I could travel with. I mean, I have a domestic, but I don't travel with it, which is why I bought this. And then I have an industrial, which I like, but obviously you can't travel with that. And so I bought this one to travel with, to take to retreats and to bring here in the motorhome, so I could, sew while we were out if I wanted to. And I kind of love it, because I don't know if anybody else suffers from this ailment, but as soon as when I'm getting ready to go on vacation, I'm like, ugh, I could just leave the sewing room. I don't want to sew anymore right now. I'm sick of sewing. But then as soon as I get out, my creativity is like, oh, but I want to make stuff. And then I'm on vacation for a while, or even if it's a work vacation, and I'm like, no, I want to sew. So now I have the luxury of, if we're in the motorhome anyway, that I can bring, I can bring that. So that's kind of cool, but I've always wondered about, there are lots of people who they fly and they bring their machine, like they want to travel with their machine, and I totally get that. Especially if you're away for weeks. even in past when I didn't, you know, sew even necessarily, or I did sew but I wasn't as into it or whatever, I would always bring crochet and other like projects and things with me. In fact, I have crochet here with me too, just in case I didn't want to sew, but I haven't crocheted at all since I've been here. So I always bring a project because I have problems sitting still. Gotta do something. Didn't like actually shove my liner down in place, so I'm kind of fighting with it. That's what happens when you're lazy. So then you gotta fight with it the whole time. But it's fine. Okay. Home stretch. I started sewing this bag from scratch when I got on here, and it's been an hour and 4 minutes. And all that's left to do is turn it, top stitch it, and then I will attach my strap. So that's pretty quick, especially considering I was, you know, taking little breaks. So see how I still haven't turned this, by the way. That's what I was talking about. But I'm about to turn it for the first and only time. So, start by doing that. Get it started, and then the birthing process of turning is not any different if you choose to just, you know, all you're doing is putting the lining and the main body bag right sides together. That's all, ultimately, if it's that type of pattern, that's all they want you to do. So if it's one that tells you to turn this part right side out and then stuff the lining, and then you end up basically putting the lining on the outside, you still end up turning it again, and now you've turned it twice. So at all costs, I always try to avoid turning my main body bag more than I have to. I'm not even sure why some, you know, because it's just extra steps when they have you do that if you don't need to. So. There's something so satisfying about pulling these little tabs out. I don't know if that's weird or not, but I think it's satisfying. It just always, it comes out so nice. They're like all up in there. It always comes out so clean. I don't know why I like that so much. Okay, so there's, poke out my corners before I get, I mean, you can do it after the fact, but it's way easier to do it this way. And I take my fingernail and just pop them out nice. Boom. And then, last thing I'm gonna do is stitch my lining closed. I'm trying to decide if I want to top stitch in this color or if I want to top stitch in red. I have to change to red anyway. I like to make my stitching match my webbing because it never comes out, you know, quite perfect, but if you use contrast stitch, you see that so much more. Versus if I use the same color, it looks perfect and I don't have to get, you know, crazy detail oriented perfectionist on it. I think my needle is starting to get dull on this because I'm having some weirdness. So I might change that before top stitching. I've made a whole bunch of bags with this needle. It's getting there. It's not quite there, but I'm having some little things. Let's see here. That is beyond bizarre. Things always seem to act up when you're sewing live too. You know that? That's like a thing, officially. Hopefully we can get through the top stitching without any more shenanigans. Trying to keep this all lined up. There we go. So, before I push this lining in, I'm gonna correct the pocket. It often gets like folded over. Not always, just sometimes. And it's easier to do it now before I tuck the lining in. So now the last part, really, of like the bag part is tucking this in. And I kind of roll it before I tuck the rest of it down, right? Like roll it like that. Trying to poke out all these corners. I mean, I can do it later, but I just like to do it now. So I'm kind of feeling my way around in there. I have a weirdo spare something sticking out of my seam allowance here. It's like a little fray. Got caught in my seam allowance. There we go. Okay, so the bag, I mean, I like to top stitch because this bunching around the top, it'll lay way nicer when we top stitch. So I'm gonna top stitch. I'm gonna keep with the blue thread, the minty, whatever, because this needle and something's kind of acting up a little funky here and I don't want to risk rethreading right now before I top stitch. I just don't feel like dealing with that. So we're gonna top stitch in the blue. It'll be fine. So, I think I said this at the beginning that I always, not always, but pretty much always, assemble, stitch, do everything with my zipper foot, and that's what I'm doing right now too. I'm top stitching with my zipper foot too. This really is one of those roll as you go situations because of the curve and everything on this. You just gotta kind of like finger press it and hold it inch by inch. top stitching goes, it's a pretty quick bag to top stitch too. Which again, one of the things I love. Pretty easy peasy project. All right, home stretch. Okay, then we back stitched. Now once we get like a heavy bottle in here, it tends to flatten out nice and just kind of sit in there nice. But see, top stitching really made this lay down. It's not so like poofy. I mean, you don't have to, but I definitely prefer it. And I think it just looks nice. That's the back. Let's see. I think it looks nice. So we're gonna rethread now, and all I literally have to do is attach my tri-glide to this little guy, and then attach that strap, and I have one more bag, the last bag that I had cut out for my market, and now I feel fully accomplished. I knew if I didn't get this one sewn, like it probably won't sell. That always seems to happen to me. The thing that I stay up the night before late working on, right? It's the thing that doesn't sell. Well, not just the only thing, but like it never makes a difference. Put it that way. I've learned all the markets I've ever done, the thing that I like, oh, I just have to get this one last one done, and I like toil over it, and I spend a bunch of time and less time that I could have been sleeping or doing something else. I'm stressing like crazy, and it makes no difference. But I cut out a whole pile of stuff. I sewed all of it, every one except this one, and I wasn't going to do it, and I thought, no, I'm so close to my goal. And honestly, that never happens either. Usually I'll cut out, 50 things for fair, and I get 30 of them done. I have a whole pile of stuff that doesn't get done. So yeah, it's just one of those things. It's like, I was so close to my goal, even though it wasn't like a real goal. I wouldn't have cared if normally I wouldn't care because I have more than one thing, but there was one left, and I did it. As long as this thing cooperates when I rethread, I don't know, it's seeming like it's being just a little weird. Okay, so Donnie said it's your cabin, so you have a sewing room and you knit and crochet too, and quick gratification like hats and cows. Yeah, so I am a very slow crocheter. I never picked up knitting. I never quite got the hang of that. To be fair, I haven't really tried super hard either, but I just never really got around to that. But I'm a slow crocheter because I'm self-taught for one. So like I know, I don't know, 4 stitches or whatever. Is it stitches in crochet? Hooks, loops, something? I don't know, whatever. I know like 4 methods. I'm self-taught. I just watch YouTube videos, and I mostly like to do little, I don't know, like little stuffies and things. And so lately I have been making cute little mushrooms. I don't even know what they're for. I just really like making them. I just make these little cute mushrooms. And yeah, they're just cool. I don't have any made, otherwise I would show them to you. I brought all my stuff to make them. I have a bunch sitting on my mantle on my fireplace at home. And they're just all, some are like pointy, some are kind of more flat, and I don't know, they're kind of cute and vintagey kind of colors and sort of weird. But I really enjoyed those, and then previous to that I used to make little stuffed animals, and I I don't know, just whatever. I've done some scarves, and then I used to crochet for charity. I used to make little, like 24 by 24 inch blankets. They were for a bereavement charity for infant loss, for like hospital donations for infant loss. So I did that for a number of years, and I sewed for that as well. But the crocheted blankets, we could sew the blankets, and then they also sewed little tiny articles of clothing for baby burial for these very small infants. And so I, did that for a number of years. And then when they started the crochet portion, I would still sew the articles of clothing, but I stopped sewing the blankets because I could crochet the blankets on the couch while I watched TV. That was kind of my thing. Just something to do when I traveled or whatever. Yeah, that worked out really well. And so since then, I haven't really been doing a ton of crocheting, and I actually just picked it up most recently to do the mushrooms, like in November, December, late December, I guess maybe is when I started again, and it's been years. Like, I hadn't even touched my crochet bin. So get that bunch of thread out of there. Anyway, yeah, so that's what I have been making, not for really any specific purpose other than I just thought they were really cute and I wanted to. But each of those little mushrooms, for one, it's a really small gauge yarn, and I can't remember what hook I'm using. It's a pretty small hook size because it's not real thick yarn. And so that makes it, even worse because all these stitches, I'm doing the same amount of stitches, but they're tiny because it's tiny yarn. So, yeah, and then I'm slow anyway. But I still like it. And not that I'm bad at it, they do come out pretty cute. But I read something recently, and that, I don't know, I hadn't heard that, I guess, before in a long time, but this kind of stuck with me. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. Somewhere along the line in my life, I got to this point where not only was I comparing my art to others, which I think we all do, but I was really kind of being my worst critic as far as like my timing and, everybody else is faster than me and they hop on the trends faster, and I'm so slow. And I am, and I always will be. I jokingly call myself the slow sewing turtle. I am sewing turtle. But I read something that kind of stuck with me where this person was like, it's just a reminder you're allowed to do art bad. And I thought to myself, oh, that's kind of a good point. I don't know at what point I used to do art to be creative as an expression and like make me feel good, right? Any form of art, crochet, painting, sewing, whatever. But then somewhere along the line, I did it to myself. I got it in my head that like it had to be perfect. And then I thought to myself, okay, and then I started thinking to myself, I should say, if it's not perfect, I would get like really upset and kind of beat myself up about it. And then it was more about perfection and all this other stuff. It became less about the creativity and more about, this has to be perfect. And I know I'm not the only one, because everybody that I see posting online, lots of people anyway, are like, what do you see in their post? The first thing they say, well, it's not perfect, but, or well, it's a little flawed, but they always like preface their thing with that. So I know it's not just me. But like, we are allowed to do art slow, and we're allowed to do it bad, because we're not really doing it for anybody but ourselves. Even if you sell it, it's still for you. At least for me, it's still for me. It's a creative expression. I'm doing it to be creative because it makes me feel good to make things, and the only reason I sell it is because I can't keep all the stuff I make. I make too much stuff. So anyway, all that to say, I am slow. But I still like it. It amazes me the speed at which others can get things sewn or crocheted or knitted or whatever. If I had to do like a garment outside of a scarf, it would take me forever, and I would probably lose interest before I ever finished it. Okay. this is why I was saying I don't like to do non-contrast thread on these, because sewing through all these layers of webbing, like, it'll do it and it comes out fine, but it looks, you know, darn near perfect, and you like don't even see it, especially in the right lighting. So, and now my X is not perfectly centered, but like nobody would know because I didn't attract attention to it. Trim that off. Okay, this is the finishing piece, and I want to make sure I don't get it twisted. Well, I think that's awesome that you have a vacation spot with your own sewing room there. I can tell you, if I had any kind of second home, I would 100% be doing the same thing, because there's no way I could have a stationary space. I mean, look, we bought a motorhome and I put a desk in it so we could have, both of us, yes, a place to work, but I was like, yeah, I'm definitely putting my sewing machine in there. It was on my mind. I think the only thing that would annoy me is I'd get so used to having my home studio. That did happen to me here, by the way, and I'm like, oh, I have that at home. I don't want to buy it for here too. Luckily, this comes home with me and I unpack all of it, but like, you know, if I forget to pack something, I'm annoyed because I don't have it with me. And by the way, if you are saying that you want to make this bag, oops, this is the hacked version of the Lynn's H20 to go, and it uses her pattern, just one of her pattern pieces, and I have the full like tutorial with the seam allowances and the changes that you make and all that kind of stuff step by step here on this channel. But it's, you know, a real tutorial. It's not a sewing live thing. So I do film tutorials that are all mic'd up and studio lighting and all that kind of stuff. So they're a little easier, in my opinion, to like learn from, because it covers everything and just gives you all the info you could ever want and more. So if you're thinking that you want to make one of these, you can check that out. Oh, I did not line that up very well. Redo. Alright, she's finished. Just gonna burn off these little ends here since it's on the outside one. Et voila. All done. Super simple. And in fact, oh, side note, I need to find my Yeti because I'm going to that market tomorrow and I want mine. Oh, I remember, it's full of tea. It's full of iced tea in the fridge. So, anyway, he's done, and I'm going to put this one by my purse, take it with me tomorrow to the market, and I hope something sells, but I hope this one sells since I've stayed up late to do it. So thanks for hanging out with me, Donna. I think a couple other people hopped in and out here, but yeah, it was fun to chat. Yeah, this does not, literally it uses one of the pattern pieces out of the whole thing, which I have all that information in the video, and it's so easy to cut. It's one that you can basically cut. I cut it with a rotary cutter, the whole thing, and you only have to print out the one pattern piece, and you make one little alteration to it, and then you use that one pattern piece for the body, for the liner, and then the only other piece you have to cut is the pocket lining. It's literally 3 pieces that you're cutting. And then I use the webbing, so I don't have to bother making a strap. It's super quick and simple, and it's a really good scrap buster because this outer body shell, what you need for it, it's not, I mean, it's a larger piece, but it's not huge. It's like, it's really good for those odd big scraps you have left over after a project. Like, I don't even know how big it is. Not very big. Like, you probably need a scrap, I would say the size, roughly like a 17-inch by like 20-inch scrap. Like, you could definitely get it out of a fat quarter and have extra, but smaller than a fat quarter even, you can get this body out of. But I love making these, and they've basically just become second nature at this point. I've made so many of them. So if you make one, let me know. I'd love to see or hear about it. But anyway, I guess I will see you all next time. Have a good night.